with head coach Kevin Constantine of the Wenatchee Wild. Kevin, first of all, welcome back to the WHL. Second of all, it's certainly been a summer of change for the Wenatchee hockey scene. But give me a sense of what the excitement level is like, what the anticipation level is like for WHL hockey in Wenatchee.
I think the town is really, really excited. I love the city, really good people. Um, a bit of a smaller town. It's not Seattle in size, but it's perfect in terms of size because I think the community can kind of get to know the players. The players can kind of get to know the community. That's the benefit of a little bit of a smaller market. But at the same time, they've supported, high level hockey here for the last 16 years. And so everybody's excited to make, one more little step up in terms of the level of play, the quality of the players. So everybody here is really excited to get this going. Wenatchee has played without any real rivalries. They've been an American team in a Canadian market for the last few years. And now if you talk, Wenatchee can play Everett, can play Spokane, can play Tri-Cities, can play, Seattle. Now you're starting to talk about rivalries. So I hope that will build here. I think the town is excited to compete against other towns from the same state instead of jumping borders and having to compete against just Canadian teams.
Yeah, you see a lot of the chatter on social media from fans around that division, right? A certain sense of excitement about adding a team to that division and having another, easy road trip for all of those fans to be able to go and watch WHL hockey this winter. But let's talk about you. You're back in the WHL. You're familiar with that division, obviously, having spent time in Everett. But give me a sense of just what it's been like for you to step back into a head coaching role in this league and to kind of take the reins of a kind of a new era, a new team, so to speak.
Yeah, I mean, the number one reason I took the job was to put my family back together. Uh, 6 years of being overseas, not being able to live with my family. So that was the first motive. And then, coming back to the Western Hockey League, there was a comfort level in that. Coming back to the U.S. division, there was a comfort level in that. Coming back to the state of Washington and knowing what we were going to get into, my wife and I, in terms of what this state is like from everywhere from people to topography, that was easy. And then, the Bliss Littler being the general manager here, has a reputation of being a great person. And that's really important to me, that I'm going to work with people that are good people, good hockey people, good people, period. So that there was a high level of comfort in taking the job. Of course, it's been 6 years, so I'm not real familiar with every single team and all the players on the various teams. So, I'm going to play a little bit of catch up, but maybe less than someone who hadn't been in this division or this league before. So I think I come in a little bit on the ground running, but I got some catching up to do with the other teams in the league.
Tell me what it's been like to get to know your roster. It's obviously a team that in Winnipeg last year went to the WHL Championship Series and has the chance to bring back a fair amount of talent from that group that was in Manitoba last year. But over the course of the weeks and months that you've been a part of the Wild organization, Kevin, what's it been like to kind of get to know this team and to kind of start to work with them as you kind of all work toward a common goal here?
Yeah, I had a chance to talk to some of, there's some first round draft picks on the team. And when I got hired, I had a little bit of a chance to talk to, Connor and Matt and Zach. Then my summer got busy with moving, a family Pittsburgh to Wenatchee and finding housing. And so I didn't get as much time to chat with all the players. And then some of them have left pretty instantly when they got here for NHL training camps. So there's three or four players, 4 or 5 players that I don't know as well as I want to, but when and if they get back from NHL camps, that process will happen. In the meantime, I now have been able to spend 2 or 3 weeks with everyone else that'll make up our roster, and that's been really fun. Great group of kids. Obviously, the success they had last year is because they had, good coaching. Last year, they had good players last year. They had good people last year, and there is some leftover for this year's team. They were an older team, so they lost a lot of guys, but a lot of important players are coming back too. And I've been very impressed with the quality of talent and with the quality of person. So I'm really excited to see what happens. We all want our NHL guys back. And at the same time, you're maybe hoping someone doesn't come back and something good happens for them hockey wise. So we don't know yet. It'll take another month to get players back and really see what the team is that we have. But so far, so good. The guys have really cared and worked hard at what we're trying to put in place.
You talked about Zach Benson, and that he was kind of front and center at the NHL draft this year, right? It's 13th overall pick to the Buffalo Sabres, and I know he got into some preseason games for you, Kevin, in that Everett tournament and prior. But kind of what do you see in Zach as far as a player, and what excites you about the prospect of getting to work with him in particular?
You talked about the Everett game. We won a game in overtime against Everett in their building. I thought Everett was a much better team, but we got great goaltending and we got a hat trick from Benson. So there's some individual players on this team that can do some special things. And that's why we have some guys that were drafted pretty high in the draft, right? So there's some talent, some real top end talent on the team. And so Zach's an example of that. There's other guys too. And to be honest with you, when you stand behind the bench, you're pretty much just a coach. But there's some things some of those guys do that I'm maybe 10% a fan when I even standing behind the bench and I'm like, oh, that's a pretty good hockey play. So it's going to be fun to be a bit of a cheerleader for these guys, mostly their coach, but a bit of a cheerleader. And then, of course, along the way, we really hope we become not just a team of individual stars. We hope we can be a team that learns to play as a group, cares for each other, plays like a team, acts like a team. So that's the process we'll go through over the next couple months.
We don't have the official stat, Kevin, but I want to say that Kenta Isogai is, at the very least, the first Japanese-born player to play in this league for a long, long time. He comes in, and Bukarts comes in as two new European players, and certainly, in dealing with players in the past in Everett, there's language barriers, there's cultural barriers to overcome when coming to play in North America. Kenta may be a little different, right, because he's played in the USHL, but I want to ask you about those two guys and just how they're settling into life in North America and life in Wenatchee, and just kind of soaking in this experience and making the most of it while they can.
Yeah, it's kind of interesting because Kenta from Japan. When I left Everett, I coached for 3 years in South Korea, and we played in a league that was based more in Japan. The biggest number of teams in the league were from Japan. And my first year in South Korea, 3 players on the team were Japanese players. So I got to understand that culture a little bit. And I can tell you, I loved coaching those players, the South Korean players and the Japanese players I had. There's a real warrior attitude, but respectful people. And Kenta's every bit of that. I think he's a pretty special guy. There's players that you coach and like I mentioned with Benson, there's players where even as the coach, every once in a while you go like, wow, that's a spectacular play. And I think Kenta has that in him. He makes some pretty special plays, really fast, really good with the puck, but also competes pretty hard and plays the game pretty hard. And Bukarts is a really good player too. So I give credit to kind of, Wenatchee Wild management that getting a team and not even knowing you have a team until mid-June, and then you got to import draft instantly as you sign the paperwork that you have the team, to come up with those 2 guys with no notice at all. Pretty solid job of getting a couple imports that I think are going to be real important parts of our team.